Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files, a podcast about animal rescue and welfare. My name is Kelly, and every week I talk about issues surrounding animals in this country and to the people who are passionate about making their lives better. And it's always fun to have a repeat guest on the podcast. And you guys may remember Kayla Powers. Kayla is based in North Carolina, in Asheville, actually. And she was on the podcast before. She is a foster down there and a great animal advocate. And previously, she was on and we talked about toxic language in animal rescue. And spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that again today because Kayla has really been going through it down there on Instagram, especially. As a reminder, her Instagram handle is foster_with_me, and she is really doing a great job of building a network to be a resource for rescue animals. So, welcome back on. Thanks for coming back on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this again with you.
I know. I mean, it sucks we have to talk about it again. Like,
Yeah.
it sucks that we have to talk about it at all. But I am excited to get into it with you. I sort of talked on a solo episode about what we're about to talk about, but I think it's also nice to get a perspective from somebody
Sure.
other than me and give people another opportunity to see how maybe they're being harmful or could do better at being helpful. So why don't
Yeah.
I let you get us started, and why don't you tell us about sort of the animal that started this whole conversation for us today? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey with Rosie?
Yeah. So Rosie was my foster cat. We actually took in Rosie with her three one-day-old babies, and it was a really spontaneous call that I got. It all happened so quickly. So I was on my way home from work. I got a call saying, "Hey, we have a mama cat with three one-day-old kittens. We're looking for emergency placement." I literally was almost home. I drove back to Asheville, picked up these kittens, and within an hour, my master bathroom turned into a cat nursery for Rosie and her babies. And it was such an incredible experience. I had never taken in a mama cat with kittens before, so this was completely new to me. And just watching them go through all their firsts, like me handling them for the first time, watching their eyes open, watching them walk for the first time, just turning into playful kittens instead of these fragile little babies was really neat. But I think the neatest thing was watching the mom in her journey, because Rosie was a cat with an upper respiratory infection. She was found with a colony of cats in a house where the owners had just left. They just up and left, and they left all these unspayed and unneutered cats. And she was one of, I think, gosh, I can't remember. I think like 20, a lot of cats.
Wow.
Um, and she had an upper respiratory infection, and she was so sick, so snotty. There was actually one night where it was like the first night we had her where I was like, oh, her breathing is actually kind of scary. So I left our
Hmm.
door open just to listen and make sure that she wasn't in distress. I didn't sleep at all. Um, but she had antibiotics, she had nebulizer treatments, and she ended up getting a lot better, but she never fully recovered. But watching her be a mom through that, it's probably going to make me tear up a little bit, because it was just the truest definition of a mom. She was so resilient. She did not care that she was sick. She just did what she had to do to raise her babies. And she ended up being one of the most, I think she actually turned me into a cat person, because she is the first adult cat I've actually connected with in my entire life. She was so friendly. She loved my dog Lucky, like absolutely loved him, wanted to be near him, had no fear, but wasn't like overly overbearing around him. She was just appropriately
Hmm.
curious, and they ended up having a really sweet relationship. And she loved my kids. She was really great with them. She adored my husband. I'm a little jealous of the relationship that they had. But she was this cat that would have been so easy to foster fail. She really blended in with our family. And I brought her in one day. Well, let me back up for just a second. Her kittens grew up. One of my friends adopted one of the kittens before they even got to the adoption floor, and the other two kittens didn't even last 2 hours on the adoption floor. They flew off the
Awesome.
floor, which is great. And
Yeah.
Rosie was still with us because we were still working through some antibiotic trials just to see if we could clear up her kitty cold. And we never really could. So I brought her in for a vet check. And it was my understanding I was bringing her in for a vet check just to see what's next. And it is actually the shelter's policy that once they finish the antibiotic protocol, um, she has a chronic upper respiratory infection, and further workup is with the owner when she's adopted,
Hmm.
because it's nothing contagious. She's not in distress. She just has chronic sniffles. That's all there really is. And on top of all this, Rosie didn't have any front teeth. She lost some naturally just through dental disease, we assume, and then they had to pull a couple because they were loose and probably going to fall out anyway, but probably causing her stress. So sniffly black cat, no front teeth, not like the most adoptable cat. So I'm already like worried about her getting adopted. And
Right.
when I bring her into the shelter for that vet check and they tell me she has to go to the adoption floor that day, I was not expecting it at all. I was not prepared for that. But I respect the shelter's policy that adoptable animals go on the floor because they're a high traffic shelter and animals actually have a higher chance of getting adopted if they're on the adoption floor. Now, there's exceptions to that, like if there's a behavioral dog who is really decompensating in the shelter, if there is, um, I had a cat named Tony who had cerebellar hypoplasia, like he could not be in a confined space because he would fall everywhere. So he actually
Hmm.
needed to be in a home. Those are exceptions. But for a cat like Rosie, who's perfectly adoptable and is not stressed on the shelter floor, I can tell you that just because I get information from the staff. She had to go back. Um, so that part wasn't surprising to me, but what surprised me was it was happening that day. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's kind of Rosie's story, and she is currently available for adoption at Asheville Humane Society right now.
So right now, as we're speaking and people are going to be listening to it, there are going to be people that are thinking to themselves out loud. And the thing that we're here to talk about today, what is the number one comment that you've heard in telling Rosie's story to your followers?
Why didn't you adopt her?
Right. So we can get into all of what had you not make the decision to adopt her, right? And that's fine. We can certainly get into that. But let's talk about that phrasing and let's talk about because honestly, that conversation is and what I saw happening to you because I'm an avid follower of yours. And I could see that progression of being in your comment section and seeing those things, and then seeing the videos that you were making in response to those things. And I reached out to you pretty quickly and said, we got to talk about this because this is insane. So why don't you tell me what that comment means to you and why it's so emotional for you to hear that consistently? What are your thoughts around that comment?
Yeah, I think the first thought that it comes to my mind is ignorance. People just don't understand how hard that is to hear. But the second thought that comes to my mind is I do wish people would know that, oh gosh, there's so many things I could say. The second thought is I wish people could know the purpose of fostering. Fostering is to help an animal get to the point where they are adoptable or they can go to their forever home. I have fostered 34 animals. If I kept every single one, Rosie wouldn't have gotten a chance at all. She would have
Mm-hmm.
been stuck in a shelter kennel probably, and it like that's the whole point of fostering. You open your home, and when they're ready, they leave your home so you can help another one when you're ready. Another thing that I wish people would understand is it is not okay to take someone's grief and turn it into shame or guilt. That's not okay. We don't do that for people. Like, this is what kept coming to my mind. I know someone that recently lost a parent, and they went through, I don't want to divulge all of her information, but they went through some treatments, and the treatments weren't the right approach. And someone said to her, well, you should have done this. You
Ugh,
should have done this treatment.
gross.
like 3 days
Gross.
after she lost her parent. And there's some things like I think most of us can identify how awful that is and how that
Right.
doesn't sit well. Like you can think that, but that's not what you say to someone. And yeah, that's a bigger scale on what I'm talking about, but the same concept applies to fosters.
Yeah, I think what drives me insane about hearing that, and this was the kind of the funny thing that I wanted to tell you, because I told you in sort of prepping for this conversation, because we've been trying to we're both very busy women, so we've been trying to
Yes.
get on each other's calendar for about a month. Um, I have a foster right now. She actually has a meet and greet on Monday, which is the 20th of July. So we're crossing our fingers. It's a really good fit. She gets
Yay.
adopted. And she's my little namesake. The rescue named a litter of puppies after some of the volunteers. And so I took in Kelly, and she bonded with me like literally instantly. It was like a duckling. She bonded to me. And I take her to work every day. And I take her to work every day, and there's another space next to me, and there's a salon in there. And so to socialize her, I would take her over to the salon. The salon would, the ladies at the salon would come over and they would pet her. And the one person at the salon said to me over and over and over again, "Why don't you just keep her? Why don't you just keep her?" And I finally said, because I had said, "No, that's not the plan. She's going to get adopted." I had been polite about it more than once. So I finally said, and for those that don't know, my day job is in insurance and financial services. That's what I do for a living. And I finally said, "Here's the deal. For every time you tell me that I need to keep this dog, I'm going to ask you to buy a life insurance policy for me every single time." And she has yet to say to me again. But what I was trying to do was like put that nuisance in a context for her that she could understand, right? And then
Yes.
she was like, "Oh, well, why'd you have to go there, Kelly?" Because I know her situation. I had asked her before, and then I had let it go. And she's like, "Oh, why'd you have to go there, Kelly?" I said, "Because you keep going there. Like, I need you to understand that I don't take the decision of not keeping these animals lightly. I
Right.
love these animals, and every time you say that to me, you don't recognize the fact that what I'm doing is positive. It has an inherent negative connotation to it, that I'm just supposed to
Yes.
keep them, that because they love me, it's impossible for them to love anybody else or be in a good home anywhere else, which is ridiculous. And it
Yes.
puts that burden of on me where it's not my burden to bear, right? In the long term for
Exactly.
this animal. And she was like, "I never saw it that way." I said, I get that. I couldn't find another way to get her to see it until I kind of crossed that line into like sales and like sort of that
Right.
nuisancey sales side, which is not how I sell, for the record. But it was, but it was like, if you're going to continue to nuisance me with this, I'm going to continue to nuisance you. And so I feel like we almost have to like kind of flip it back on people and go, "Oh, well, why don't you adopt her? You want
Yeah.
me to adopt her. I have two dogs already, and I'm ready to foster another one the second she leaves my home. So why don't you take her?" And it's so
Yeah.
interesting to me the way that people just kind of immediately put that burden back on you as if you're not already shouldering the weight and responsibility of loving that animal for the time period that you have that animal.
Exactly. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with it's very clear that woman has not, or anybody that says that, that automatically flags me. You've never fostered, you've never volunteered with a shelter, you have no idea what the pet overpopulation crisis is right now. There's just such a disconnect, and
So
we have got to change that.
I'm going to disagree with you, and here's why.
Yeah, tell
I
me.
see it. I see it in our organization.
Really?
I
Oh,
do.
tell me about this.
And I think it's innocent. I know it's innocent. I know it's meant to be kind of nice and sort of like, because like we have this volunteer chat and it's very, very active. That is where like 90% of communication happens amongst the volunteers, amongst we're foster based. There is no shelter for us to go to. So we have to find a way
Mhm.
to communicate with each other. And we're all over kind of the Western Pennsylvania area. So like you have to have a central communication. And, people will post in there, hey, I just got this dog. It's doing really well. Or look how this animal has come out of its shell. Or this dog really gets along with my dog or my kids or whatever. And I see it. I see it in that chat of, oh man, they're so happy at your home. You should just keep them.
Wow.
So I think that I, I think that it's coming from a place of, this animal is happy. I want to continue to see this animal happy. And, they're sort of making that very, basic connection. So I don't think it's coming from a negative place. I think it's maybe coming from people who are maybe not haven't volunteered before, but maybe who are a little more inexperienced at it. I think that
That
that's
was going to
certainly
be my
true.
next question. Are these
Yeah,
newer people?
I think it's newer people. I think it's people who don't do it as much, maybe. They maybe foster a very small number of dogs a year. But it does absolutely happen, I think, within the community as well. Because, I mean, I've even had it. I was out, our local town does this incredible event throughout the summer called Fridays on Fifth. And they have a ton of vendors come into our downtown and they're trying to revitalize it. And it's such a great event. And I know some of the people at Animal Protectors, and I know this one dog at Animal Protectors. He's a long term shelter dog, and I know his story. And so he was out at that event with volunteers, and I spotted him. And I said to the volunteers, I go, oh, is that Ed? Is Ed here? And they were like, oh my God, you know who Ed? It was like a celebrity moment. You know who this is, or whatever. And I said, oh, yeah, I know Danielle, I know Cheyenne, like, yeah, I'm familiar with Ed's story. And they were like, well, he needs a home. I said, I know, but I have 2 dogs at home and I do my own fostering. And they continued to say, well, you could have another one, like this and that. And I'm like, guys, I
Ooh.
just told you, like, I'm already in this deep. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like it's not necessarily limited to people who don't volunteer. I don't think it's coming from a malicious place. I know it's not coming from a malicious place, but I think even within our world, I think that people are very cavalier about that.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I would say in my 20 years of animal advocacy, fostering, volunteering, I've only had that happen one time that I can think of from someone within a rescue or volunteer network. So that's really, really interesting.
I think it's, like I said, I think it's just, I don't know. I think it's simplistic. I think that not everybody that's in that space is maybe thinking as critically about it, is maybe thinking as deeply about it as everybody
Sure.
else. You and
Yeah.
I, because of what we do and putting ourselves out there and talking to people super openly about the work we do, and
Hmm.
seeing kind of the ins and the outs of it on a very regular basis, I don't know, we're immersed in a way that maybe other
Absolutely.
people aren't and like don't
Sure.
necessarily know. Like that person who was walking Ed, maybe all they do is doggy day outs. And I'm certainly not minimizing that
Yeah.
volunteer because it's incredibly important. Any aspect of volunteer is important. But maybe they don't foster, so maybe they don't realize what it means to love this animal, say goodbye to this animal, and then have people sort of guilting you in a way that they don't intend to say, well, you should have just, that animal loves you. You should just keep it. That animal loves you. Of course it
Yes.
loves me. Of course I love it. That doesn't necessarily mean this is the right decision.
Yeah, I think too, to your point, there is something to be said. There is a rescue I worked with very, very briefly and I backed away quickly. Leadership, I think, makes a big difference. If leadership is pushing adoptions that are not appropriate and pushing more of this guilt trip people into adopting this animal instead of finding the
Hmm.
animal the correct home,
Hmm.
that kind of sinks into the people that volunteer and support that rescue.
Hmm.
um yeah, interesting, just interesting.
Yeah. I guess for me, I don't know if I'm maybe sensitive to it because I hear it a lot because I mean, you put yourself out there even more so than I do, because you're in the kind of that broader social media space more than I am. But yeah, you put yourself out there and people are going to say stuff like that. I wanted to bring up another kind of perspective on it. I think the people that say that don't take adopting an animal seriously. Like they don't like when they go to get an animal, whether they go to adopt one or they go to buy one, I don't think that they think it through as intensely as somebody like you and I do. Because, like, if I asked you right now why you decided not to adopt Rosie, you're gonna have probably a 3 to 4 minute answer of like you're gonna list like, well, we thought about this, we thought about this, we thought about this. Like, it's not just gonna be like, oh, well, we didn't want a cat. Like
Exactly.
you're going to be so detailed in your answer. I already know that because I just did a whole 20-minute episode with Michael about foster failing Max last week. So, it's, yeah. So I think that people that say that take it less seriously than we do. We take it really seriously when we decide to keep an animal, really seriously. We really think hard about it.
Absolutely. Do you want me to go into my reasons of why we didn't
If you
adopt
want
Rosie?
to, again, to be clear, you don't owe anybody anything, any damn thing at all. But
Yeah,
certainly, I mean, I think it's also nice for people to hear about like how seriously we do take it and like what it means to us to think through keeping an animal. So yeah, go for it.
sure. So the biggest reason we didn't adopt Rosie is because we call ourselves a two animal household. Now, a two animal household, a mom cat with kittens, we bundle that as one animal when we're
Hmm.
fostering, or like a pair of kittens, a pair of puppies. And that's really all. We have little kids. So that's really all we can truly responsibly take on. And of course, when you foster, everything is covered medically and the food is covered. There's no financial obligation unless I just want to buy her something on my own. Um, with Rosie, we did actually talk about it. There was a conversation. Does this make sense for our house? And with how challenging it was, Rosie would likely have to be an indoor cat because she doesn't have front teeth. And I don't know if I personally would have trusted her outdoors. She's a little too trusting with like new things. Like I could actually see her going up to a bear and trying to cuddle with it. That's just the personality that she had. And how tricky it was when we started letting her roaming our house, how tricky it was for us to have our kids close the door immediately. We'd always have to be
Mm,
right there, very vigilant, watching like a hawk, making sure she's not getting out because especially when she's a foster, she's not allowed to get out. Um,
hmm.
but carrying that over into adoption didn't seem fully doable for us. But also, we want to continue fostering dogs. And
Hmm.
say we made it work for whatever reason, our ability to take in dogs, the dogs we can take in, it goes down so much. We can help
Hmm.
so much less because it's not common for dogs to be cat tested unless they're an owner surrender and the owner reports,
Hmm.
yes, this dog has lived with cats before. And even then, you have to take those with a grain of salt because
Right.
you
Yeah.
just don't know. You're going off of someone's reported history. So, yeah, a lot of things didn't make sense for us to adopt her, but our biggest reason is we want to continue helping and we don't have the ability to isolate a cat. I'm not going to stick her in a bathroom for 3 months because the dog we have isn't cat friendly. That's not fair to
Right.
her. Um, yeah, it just it didn't really make sense. And I go back to this isn't the point of fostering. The point of fostering is to get them to the point they're adoptable and or can go to their forever home.
What I really like about what you just said that I preach a lot is we want to continue to foster responsibly. That is like full stop. We want to foster responsibly
Yeah.
because you and I have both witnessed situations in which this open hearted, kind hearted soul says yes way too much. And then
Yes.
now we're past the point where those animals that need that care are getting it in really the way that they deserve, right? Because that person is saying yes too much. And other things and other aspects of care are being neglected. because of that. So I
Absolutely.
love that you said that. We wanted to continue to foster responsibly. That's so important.
Absolutely. It's so important. And I think, like you said, it just, some people just take on too much. We see it with fostering, we
Mhm.
see it with rescues. You really have to know what you can do responsibly because that's what's
Right.
best for animal welfare.
I think that's why it's so important that we continue to have these conversations and that you continue to post the videos that you're posting. Because ultimately, what it comes down to is if you're going to go into a rescue or a foster's comments and you're going to kind of have any judgment about what they're doing, whether they're saying yes to an animal or whether they're saying no to an animal, just don't do it. There's nothing about the situation that you know enough of to be able to bring your opinion into that situation. Whether it's they have this dog muzzled, they have these animals separated, they are crate training, they aren't training, like whatever it is, just shut up.
Preach it,
You don't
Kelly.
know.
Preach it.
You don't know what's going on in that situation. Like honestly, it's just and that, I mean, that's so true for so many things, but when it comes to rescue and fostering, shut up. You
It
don't
is
know what's
shocking
going
how
on.
many, yes, it's shocking how many all of a sudden you have these behavior experts showing up in your comments. You have medical
Right?
experts that off of a 30-second clip, they feel like they can cure whatever problem you're going on. Yeah,
Right.
it extends so much past adopt that foster animal.
Right. Right. But that, I mean, that's sort of the start of it. And really, like, all of this, that language really ties into the number one thing that we both hear, which is, oh, I could never foster because I would keep them all. And it's such an overly simplistic way of thinking about the work that we do and the dedication that we have to being a transitional home for these animals. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, like the agreement that you're making then is that you're much more comfortable with the risk of them being euthanized.
Yeah, and that's something I'm still trying to, and I think I've just been in this space so long that it is so hard for me to comprehend that comment because you are
Mm,
saying you are more comfortable with them sitting in a shelter at risk for euthanasia or at
hmm
risk for kennel behaviors, kennel stress that can make them unadoptable than bringing them in and giving them a chance. And it
hmm
is it is a mindset shift that you need to have. You need to have more of that mission mindset and be more focused on the impact than you are just solely I'm going to take this one animal because there is a bigger picture. It's not just about that one animal. Um, yeah, a mindset shift really needs to happen in society, and that is one of the main goals of my page is to help people think a little bit more broadly about this.
I mean, I have started to really push back on that, like when people say that to me. I
Yeah.
was recently on another podcast. If you haven't checked out Penny Ellison's podcast, The Animal Advocate, I highly recommend it. She's an attorney and a professor, and she talks about a lot about animal legislation in a way that is like what I call a big brain way. She's so freaking smart. Anyway, so she was amazing and had me on. And as of this recording on July 19th, I don't know what date her episode with me will air, but certainly I'll post about it in the newsletter. But she, talked to me about that. And I brought up that phrasing that I hear, which is, oh, I can't foster because I would want to keep them all. And I said, this is what I'm starting to say to people, which is like, oh, okay, you're just comfortable with the possibility they might be euthanized. And I think I took her aback a little bit, like kind of just the, look on her face. I think she was surprised at the level of kind of that extreme, what people believe to be that extreme
Sure.
thought that I went to. And I'm like, I understand that that response makes people uncomfortable. But what makes me uncomfortable is knowing that there's going to be probably at least 300,000 dogs that are going to be euthanized in 2026, if not more, because of how much disposable income is just kind of going down the toilet in this country right now. So that makes me uncomfortable. So
Sure.
I would rather be uncomfortable saying goodbye to Kelly tomorrow night than be uncomfortable by the fact that, yep, she's going to be put down because there was nobody that could take her in.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to that knowledge gap. I I honestly think, I mean, there are some people that know, right? There's some people that are aware of that and are still choosing that mindset. But there are also, I am shocked by the amount of people who don't know what's going on in the shelter crisis, and adoptable dogs, dogs that are dog friendly, cat friendly, and kid friendly, that are being euthanized because they just don't have the space. That's
Hmm.
truly what's happening. And we just have to keep talking about it.
And shelters are being villainized for that. And ultimately,
Oh,
that's
yes.
also not helpful because this idea that a no kill shelter is somehow like, don't get me wrong, I support the no kill movement for its concept and what it's trying to change with managing intake on the front end, with doing retention on the back end. All of those things around no kill are so incredibly important, but we cannot let the no kill language villainize the shelters that do have to euthanize for space because they literally have no other options.
Yeah, I could go down a very large rabbit hole on that, but the no kill movement, the perception of the public who are not immersed in animal welfare and what's going on with the shelter crisis is starkly different than the people who are in it and actually
Right,
see what's going on. And
right.
we need to talk about that humane euthanasia is not the worst thing that can happen to a dog. It
No.
really isn't. I had a situation I talked about the other day. I had a neighbor who had went to, a lot of our shelters around here are managed intake, and I love them and I support them and they do amazing work. And I'm just simply pointing out a gap. I don't want this to come across as I do not support the shelters that I foster with. But we had a neighbor that had a dog. She was driving an hour a day to go let this dog out. Her dad became terminally ill and went to the hospital. And this dog was not, I don't know the relationship with her dad. I don't know the family dynamic. It's not my business. But I know this dog had never been around kids, had never been vaccinated, lived outside in the backyard, had shelter apparently, but was just kind of given the minimum in life. Now, how
Hmm.
her dad acquired this dog, I have no idea. He could have just taken it in as a stray 3 months ago. I don't know. But she was driving back and forth an hour twice a day to go let this dog out. And she was trying so hard to get it to a rescue, to a shelter. We're all full around here. And with
Hmm.
managed intake, that's what happens. You're essentially put on a wait list for months, usually, before
Hmm.
you can surrender a dog. Now, in my opinion, this situation was an appropriate way to surrender a dog. She has another dog in the house that she didn't feel comfortable trying to make that work. She also had young kids in the house. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't have taken the dog either. But what ended up happening, she was giving all these rehoming resources and she became desperate. She listed the dog on Craigslist for free
Hmm.
and the dog was taken that day. And when she asked, I reached out to her asking, hey, did you get some help with your dog? And she responded with that answer. She listed it on Craigslist and she just kept saying, I'm so relieved. I just didn't know what else to do. She really ran out of options. And I'm not villainizing her, but that is such a bad thing to do because the
Hmm.
hands that dog probably landed in, those people ended up blocking her from social media, blocked her
Yep.
number. That's not super promising.
No.
And we don't know where that dog ended up. Maybe it's happy and loved. I really hope that, but it's hard to think that based on the
Hmm.
circumstances. And that dog would have been so much better served to be humanely euthanized somewhere
Hmm.
than end up on those hands.
Hmm. I talked about this briefly, but I had like a distant, very distant non-blood relative reach out to me on social media, maybe like 6 or 8 months ago, and she said, we've had this dog for a while now, and it has unfortunately started to like kind of lash out in a way that we're very scared for our kids. And she's like, I'm not really sure what to do. I've reached out to some rescues. I've had it to the vet and the vet has maybe recommended putting the dog down. I don't want to do that. I love this dog. It's just we're getting to the point where we don't feel safe. And I responded to her and I said, listen, I'm really sorry you're going through this. I cannot assist you. I said, rescues and shelters are having a very difficult time. We are overpopulated, overcrowded with dogs that do not have behavioral issues that, are kid friendly and are dog friendly and this and that. And, you know, those dogs are having a hard time getting adopted. The reason that you're having so many issues is because bringing in an animal like that is such a massive strain on that rescue's resources and just everything going on. It would be very difficult to adopt out. And I said, if you've had the animal to the vet and the vet's recommendation is considering behavioral euthanasia, I said, that may be where you're at right now. And I'm really sorry to say that. I know that's not the answer you wanted from me. And you were looking for help, and I didn't give you the help that you're looking for, but that's kind of where we are right now, it sounds like. And she was really great about it. Carrie was, and she said, you know, I think that might be where we're at. Thank you so much for being honest with me. I really appreciate that. And I haven't, you know, really taken the time to follow up, but people see this, what we do, as very black and white when they're
Yes.
not immersed in it. And they think that because we love animals, that we can just automatically accept, take in, care for, deal with, handle any animal. And I think it always surprises people when we set those boundaries and we say, you know, this is why this isn't going to work, and this is why I can't do this, and this is why the rescue can't take in this animal. And there's a lot of negative pushback that we get when we decide not to adopt an animal, or we decide not to take in an animal that needs to be rehomed or whatever. And it's just interesting because, like, going all the way back to your point, most of that negative feedback that we get are from people that aren't living the same volunteer space that we're living, or inexperienced in it, or just don't know about the situation and they think that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand we're not going to get everybody to volunteer or do dog day outs or foster, but I
Hmm.
hope we can get to a point where we get people to understand the burden they're asking us to take on. And I hope we can get to that point where people just understand better and we can close this knowledge gap, because it would help the crisis, really. It
Oh,
would
for
help people
sure.
understand who backyard breeders are, what they actually are, because most people that breed dogs and are backyard breeders don't actually think they're backyard breeders. And they have
No,
these beautiful pages. And people don't get that. They think they're buying from a responsible breeder. And just so many knowledge gaps out there that we need to close.
it's also so interesting too. One of the things you pointed out recently was the comments that you get and
Oh,
receive
yeah.
for not keeping Rosie, and then the comments you see on people's pages about, oh, I have this litter of puppies all ready to go, and every single comment is like, oh my god, they're so cute, oh my god, I wish I could have one. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry,
And
you're
people, when
you're holding
yes,
them to this completely different standard.
it's such a disconnect. To read the
It
comments, it
is,
was so wild the way that played out. And the reason I made that post, so I posted that I said goodbye to Rosie, and I'm very raw and real on my foster page. I
for sure.
record what happens. It's kind of like my journal. I record what happens when it's happening. And when I said goodbye to Rosie, I wasn't expecting it. I was really upset, and that was my post because that's what happened. And I get people, I mean, the abundance of comments. You're too emotional to foster. Stop fostering. Why didn't you just adopt her? Maybe you should consider she was already home with you. To say that to someone who is grieving is asinine to me. But then
Hmm.
what popped up as I like my first scroll on social media is this backyard breeders page. Now, why I get these pages on my scroll, I have no idea, but occasionally
Hmm.
they pop up. And it was this backyard breeder that was selling these doodle mixes, Frenchies, pretty much any designer breed that you can think of. Beautiful storefront. Like, you scroll through this page, these puppies are in baskets with bows around their necks. Gorgeous. All the colors that you can imagine, because that matters to people. And
Hmm.
first of all, huge red flag, because you're a breeder breeding multiple different types of breeds. Second of all, you're breeding patterns and colors into a breed that don't belong in the breed naturally. And third of all, you're making people think you're a reputable breeder because you're saying you do health testing, but the health testing they did was in bark. That's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, to read the comments on those posts, right after I read the comments on my posts, I want a blonde one that looks exactly like that. I want I want a litter from you. You're a great breeder. It's asinine to me. There's just such a
Mhm.
disconnect, and we have to close this gap. We have to.
You're literally in some ways being vilified for saving this cat's life and for loving this cat and getting it to a point where it could be adopted and not just euthanized. And they're, just being glorified for
Yes,
bringing additional issues into the world. Because let's be clear, Frenchies can't breathe. They have a multitude of medical issues. And it's also my understanding that most Frenchies can't even deliver their puppies naturally. They have to have a
correct.
C-section just to have a
Correct.
litter. So, you know
Yes.
what? Anybody that breeds Frenchies, you can F all the way off. You can reach out to me and tell me how I don't care. Like, honestly, please reach out to me so I know to post your page as somebody that you absolutely should not be getting an animal from because Frenchies do not come into this world under good circumstances and honestly should not exist anymore in the manner that they currently do. We have bred them to be plagued with medical issues. And how dare us? How dare us? So,
And
whatever.
then you
But
have these people on the Frenchie topic. Have you seen this where people are breeding other breeds into Frenchies to redo the health standards and they're making up a completely different breed? I'm gonna have to tag you in that post.
please do. It's
It
gonna
is
fully make me
wild.
mad, so maybe don't. But like, it's just gonna like you're just gonna rage bait me. Like it's so easy to rage bait me, Kayla. Like I'm like always just like a little. I'm like the Hulk. I'm always just a little bit angry all the time. So like, please don't rage
But
bait
we need
me.
people like you to normalize these comments because I am so sick
I'm
of reading
so
comments
annoying.
of like you said, glorifying these people, and then we villainize the people that are cleaning up the
Literally
mess of
saving
these
lives,
people.
cleaning up the mess, cleaning up
Yes,
the mess. You cleaned up the mess and you're vilified, and they are creating the mess and they're glorified. Like, honestly, I
I feel like I
just,
need to
ugh.
flip my hair or something. We're getting
Yeah,
into it.
yeah,
Getting
actually,
sassy.
it's so annoying though. It really is. Like, I had a neighbor come to me a while ago, and then we were at like a block party, and we had one of our, I don't even remember which foster it was. We had one of our fosters down there, and they came up to me and they're like, "Oh, like our son's girlfriend has a Great Dane and a King Corso, and they had puppies, and they're having a really hard time." Getting finding some of the puppies' homes. And we were wondering if maybe like you had some advice for them. And I looked them dead in their face and I said, tell them to get their dogs fixed.
But seriously, but
They were
seriously,
like, the husband started laughing and the wife was like, because it was her son. And the wife was like this. I said, I'm really sorry, but your son and his girlfriend are creating the problem that I am trying to clean up by fostering. I said, so don't come to somebody who is trying to like get amazing animals into homes and ask them to fix the problem that you created by not getting your animals fixed. And the husband looked at the wife and was like, I told you. like, like I told you they just need to get those dogs fixed because they're two huge breeds. So the
right?
second that those puppies get past that super cute puppy face, that you will find out really quickly how hard it is to place these large breed dogs. That's
Sure.
not gonna be an easy placement. And so it was just, I literally was like, I don't know if I was in like as part of my cycle where I just wasn't here for it, but I immediately was like, tell them to get their dogs fixed. Like
You
that
know
was
what's
my
so
advice.
funny? So this is really funny. It kind of triggered a thought. The other day, my kids are really into Disney movies, right? And we've been watching like
As they
all the
should
old
be.
classics. Yeah,
Oh,
as they should
God
be.
bless.
But have you gone back and watched them as an adult ever since you've started like fostering or been in animal rescue?
I mean, I have absolute no shame in saying I fully watch all the Disney. Like I have my nieces and nephews over as an excuse to
So
watch the Disney
is your
movies.
lens
So like which one
different?
what do you
Okay,
um what are you thinking of specifically? Because maybe I haven't
so
gotten
this
there
is
yet.
perfect example. So we were watching 101 Dalmatians the other
Oh
day.
yeah, 101 Dalmatians is a mess. Yeah.
So my kids are watching this, and I'm watching Pongo and Purdy have an unexpected litter of 15 puppies. And because I'm the crazy animal advocate that I am, I take this moment to educate my children. We do not do this.
It's
Those
not okay.
Pongo and Purdy, they should have gone to see the doctor so they don't have puppies. This is not what we do. I paused the movie to have this conversation with my children. So
You're like,
then
we just want to watch the movie, Mom. Knock it
I know
off.
they're
Stop
like
preaching to
looking
us.
at me. They're kind of taking it in. Kind of taking it in. And they're looking at me like, okay, can we start the movie? So the movie goes on. And then they find what, like 84 more Dalmatian puppies in the same like 100-mile radius or whatever that they're in. Pause the
You know
movie again.
Pongo was out there. Pongo was out there spreading his seed. That was all Pongo.
All Pongo, probably. Pause the movie again. And I say, do you see all these puppies that don't have homes? This is why we foster. We foster these puppies. This is why we don't like people who breed dogs. That's how I'm keeping it at a 4 and 5-year-old level right now. So then it goes on. And then they adopt them all, right? They take in 101 Dalmatians. Pause again.
Now this is a hoarding
We
case.
do not take in 101 dogs. This is called hoarding. We don't do this. And they're like, Mom, okay.
This is what, you know what? I recently had a conversation with my brother-in-law about how the Jungle Book is racist.
I
He was
haven't gone
like,
back to watch that one.
he was like, well, I think what had happened was they took the crows out of the movie. Like Disney actually took the racist crows like out of the movie. There was like three. Oh wait, no, excuse me. I'm conflating the two. It was Dumbo that had the racist crows, and
Oh,
they
yes.
took.
I remember
Yes,
this
okay,
episode.
sorry. I'm thinking. So they recently, like in the last year or so, there was like basically Disney had taken the racist crows out of Dumbo. So if you go to rewatch it on Disney Plus, like they're not in there. And I said something to my brother-in-law about it. And I definitely am the most like left person in both sides of the family, like my side and my husband's side, like for sure. Like they're so tired of me. And like, and I was like, well, you know, those crows were racist. And they're like, Kelly, it's a kid's movie. I'm like, they're still racist. like, yes, you can say I enjoy the movie, and you can also say them with some racist crows. Like, it's not.
Yes.
And I think there's a moment in the Jungle Book too where it's racist too. Like if you go back in some of these old Disney movies, some of them can be really problematic and are definitely like emblematic of the times, for sure. It doesn't mean that we can't use that as an opportunity to educate the next generation or like educate ourselves on it. But that's so funny.
Well, and they
101
totally
Dalmatians,
take in what they see, right? So, like, another
right?
example, oh my gosh, people are gonna think I'm a crazy mom. I kind of am when it comes to like animal welfare because I take every opportunity to teach my kids a lesson for animal welfare. Like, they go with me for shelter drop-offs when they can. Like, I'm always thinking in that sense. But the movie Finding Nemo, taking wildlife illegally for pet trade, like, are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Like,
yeah.
that's not okay to take a fish out of the ocean and just keep it. Like,
Mhm.
we don't do that. And I don't know. I think that it's a opportunity to teach little lessons as we go through these movies.
Well, it's funny too because like my favorite Disney is Moana. Like I am seriously
Such a
trying to
great
figure out
movie.
how to get a Moana tattoo. Like I love Moana. And I have nieces and I say one of the reasons I love Moana, she didn't have to be rescued by a man.
It's
Sisters are
so
like,
true.
shut up. I'm like, it's true. She was a princess and she didn't have to be rescued by no man. There's no love story in Moana. And so
Yeah.
it's just so funny. Like anyway, I'm like that really annoying woke aunt. Like they're like, stop saying these things to our like 6-year-old. Just let her enjoy the movie. I'm like, no, she gonna learn today.
Pause.
But this is why Moana need to rescue Maui.
Oh my
She
gosh,
didn't
it's so
need a
true.
hero, and neither do you.
Yep. It's like Reese Witherspoon. She pointed out, I notice this every time now. She pointed out in every movie almost, there's a point where
What do
the
we do now?
woman asks the man, what do we do now?
I
And
saw
I
that
cannot
too.
unsee it.
I know. I know. It's wild. I drove my husband insane because we watched Top Gun Maverick. And
Uh-huh.
I said, he was like, did you like it? And I was like, no. He's like, why not? I said, because there's an unnecessary love story in it. The main relationship in Top Gun Maverick should be Maverick and the kid the rooster, I think his name is. That's the main relationship. That's the depth. That's the character development. That's a beautiful story. I love it. And then they throw in this random love story just so Tom Cruise can have a love story. I was like, that ruined the whole movie for me. My husband was like, I hate you so much. I don't want to watch movies with you.
It's really how my kids feel. They're
I
like,
know. I
Mom,
think that's
go.
how everybody in my world feels. They're like, you are so annoying to watch movies with. Oh, anyway. So fortunately, maybe the people that stop listening to the podcast like halfway through, maybe they didn't have to be subjected to this today.
Or maybe they're like, yeah,
But I
heck
enjoyed it.
yeah.
But yeah, the ones that listen the whole way through are like, I'm not watching 100 Nations anymore. Screw that. Oh,
So true.
all right. So I want to let you get about the rest of your Sunday. I got some family coming over to swim. So I would really like to take the opportunity to talk about Smitty on our
Yes.
foster spotlight today. So I'm going to share my screen. And honestly, you have made me genuinely fall in love with this guy. He's such a beautiful boy. And for those that don't follow Kayla on Instagram, do me a favor, follow her immediately, foster underscore with underscore me. Find her on Instagram, but she does Sundays with Smitty. And so tell me about Smitty and why you felt it was so important to highlight him every week until he gets adopted.
Yeah, so I am Smitty's virtual foster, which means I am simply networking him. I am making reels to increase his visibility and help him get adopted. His foster moms are absolutely amazing. They send me videos and pictures every single week, and I just compile them and create a real idea around it using Smitty's personality and his adoption profile. Smitty is a dog. He does need to be, right now, he needs to be the only dog in the home, which makes him a little bit more tricky to adopt. On top of that, he is a
Mm-hmm.
pit bull. As we know, those breeds are so commonly overlooked, yet they're some of the most loyal and sweet dogs that you'll ever find. Um, Smitty has been through professional training. Is leash trained. He is crate trained, and I felt such a personal connection to him, mostly because I'm such a pit bull advocate, and I love this breed
Mm-hmm.
so much. But there's just something about him. There's like an essence to him there's so much personality there. Yet he has done so much work and is really ready for his forever home. And what a blessing I get to be a part of that and help him find it.
So, for those of you following along on YouTube, you are going to see me scrolling through Smitty's pictures, and this is one of those pit bulls with the perpetual smile, and he is just he really defines that. I love it so much. He's got like a black body, but he's got a white chest and a white face, and he's just you can tell he's a super happy boy, and just every time he's looking at the camera, you can tell he just loves his people that he's with. I loved the reel you posted today where it was an adoption applicant going through and Smitty approving it or having super important interview questions like, how many treats a day am I going to get if you adopt me? He's such a sweet dog. So I am going to go ahead and put his link in the show notes as I do for all of our foster spotlight animals. He is house trained. As Kayla said, he has gone through professional training. He is neutered. He is vaccinated. It looks like, as you said, he needs to be an only dog. So it looks like the page hasn't maybe been updated with that information, but we're telling you that now he does need to be the only dog in the household. His adoption fee is $200, and he's with Lending Paws a Hand in North Carolina. So if you are in Kayla's area and you're not ready to adopt Rosie and you want a dog instead, please consider welcoming Smitty into your home because he really deserves a wonderful forever home. He's such a handsome guy. And again, follow Kayla on Instagram, foster underscore with underscore me, and get a little more information about Smitty every Sunday.
He's the best. He's so entertaining. I don't have to try that hard because he's so entertaining on his own.
That's awesome. He looks like such a good boy. So I just wanted to thank you for coming on. I know that the
Yeah.
people that are listening, guys, there's got to be somebody in your world who maybe is a volunteer or considering being a volunteer who has heard this language or has maybe said this language. Send this episode to that person. Give them an opportunity to commiserate with us or about, what they experience, or maybe learn from us about ways that they can be a little bit less kind of jarring. to those of us that are in this world and
More
feeling these
supportive,
things
more
all the
supportive to
time. More
us.
supportive. There you go.
Yes.
So Kayla, thank you again so much. And I
Thank
am
you.
so excited. We are going to have some in-person content coming in October
I
because we are
cannot
going to
wait.
meet. I know. I'm so excited to meet you. I feel like our poor husbands are going to be like, they're just meeting for the first time and they are acting like they have known each other forever. I feel like that's what's going to happen to our poor husbands.
Probably.
But I am so excited to meet you in person. And if anything else comes up that we need to talk about, I want you to let me know. But again, follow Kayla on Instagram, share this episode with a friend. And if you haven't already left the podcast a review, I don't care if it's a 1-star review and you hate me because we don't like the racist crows in Dumbo, please just leave me a review. So that I can get a little introduced to some more people who maybe want to commiserate about fostering, adopting, and animal welfare. Kayla, thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Anytime. And remember, everyone, be kind to yourselves and be kind to animals.